The title of this program is called Checkmate. We all know the term. Any of us who have learned to play chess, you know that when checkmate happens, game over. So I want to ask you a question, and I really want you to think about this. Not if we could all just learn to do our own cognitive thinking when we start talking about the subjects that are difficult to define. And I ask you, what is a God? Don't go back to your religion. Don't go back to your book and try to define it. What is God to you? And how do you define God? I will have to say this: the future of humanity is set. Unless there is something that dramatically impacts our world, our species, our future has been set. We are heading for the singularity. Kid you not. All my life, I thought I was worshiping God. You know, the God. But the older I became, the more I began to realize I really did not know who or what God was or is, and still do not. I have read the book, the good book. Always amazes me to think how we treat certain things with almost a weird superstition. So it was the Bible. And most of my waking life believed it was the most sacred thing in human history, and that there was but one God supreme over everything. But oh, how the mist vanishes when you grow up and realize it was all an illusion. I do believe, my friends, that this was destined from the beginning. I don't know if we, let me retract that statement. The new reality we are in, this was from the beginning. I first became aware sitting in my church nearly 5 years ago. I was, it was nothing more than an eyelid twitching, but it was enough to allow a ray of sunlight to enter into my consciousness. And from there, as I now look back, I have lived a dozen lifetimes, folks. For each new revelation, each new morsel that I found added to my understanding, whereas my mind was busily taking each new piece and filling in the puzzle. This is not to say that the puzzle has been solved, but it's becoming easier to see what the puzzle is leading to. But let there be no doubt, it is far from being complete. And I think that's how it is with all of us. We're all putting the pieces together, doing our best that we can. The problem is, so many of us have been cheated out of the pieces. But that's another story. I found that at the beginning, I was in a reality that was a mixture of so many other realities. And my mind was reeling to find an island of stability. But my core was being shattered into nothingness. For I was aware that the sleeper had awakened. And as one does when going from a dark room into bright sunshine, you know you are temporarily blinded by the light. It overwhelmed my consciousness, for I had not known this self of me. It was as if I had been freed from a place that had no walls, no boundaries, but a prison it was. And now it was a shock to my awareness as the bright light began to illuminate my consciousness. As H.G. Wells put out, the sleeper awakes. I think that this applies to many of you who are watching this. You are the sleeper, as I was, and we have awakened, and many more of us are awakening. My mind, for the first time, began to function in a manner it was created to do, tapping into the infinite being. I, for the longest time, did not know what to make of this. New doors of thought had been opened, and as the picture of 1,000 doors depicts, I was unsure which to open first. And what led me to do the next was of a higher, much higher consciousness. As I have been shown, many will open one door and explore that place to which the door opens and never leave, for they find it satisfies for the moment that which drove them here to begin with, and thus they never move on to the next door. But this is how it is for all of us. When we awaken, we suddenly realize all the doors that had been shut, locked, blocked from us by those of our handlers, those of our leaders. I, however, knew instinctively that one door would not be enough, for I knew I could stand on the mountaintop and I could see the vista of the valley below and gain understanding, and that each door would eventually place me in the valley no matter what. So I began to open a new door, step through the threshold, never closing the door, but stepping in enough to gain the syntax, not knowing all that there is to be known, but enough to add to my mind and have rivers of thoughts flood my being. And not only thoughts, but visions, moments of being keenly aware of other dimensions, seeing that what awaits each person and how this has been taught wrongly, and becoming aware of something that, as I now write this, frankly makes every hair on my body stand straight up. For this is just almost beyond the limits of reasonable thought. My friends, we have indeed created something from the unseen. And that unseen is here now. We opened the door for it. We built it. And it's infinite. For what I have discovered is almost more than the mind can accept as real. But real it is, my friend. And where this is leading is to the total enslavement of humanity, where there is no escape. But here is the thing that I have found perplexing. Most do not want to escape or leave. To them, it would be a prison to leave this one that they're in. And they openly desire to be part of this enslavement, so much so they worship it without even knowing or caring, as you probably do. Be honest with yourself. When you leave this program, you're going to say, oh, well, that was very interesting. Great deep thoughts there, Wayne. Most will shake this off and not want to have to think, to contemplate that they are enslaved already and worshiping, and they don't even care themselves. You're going to find they share something in common. This is what we've become: a digital prisoner. We've all taken the mark. Get it out of your head. You don't need to take a mark in your hand or your forehead. That is symbology, not reality. But the theme is real. The story is about enslavement of your soul, of your mind, and of your body. And this is what you have done. All of us have. This is you. This is me. This is all of humanity. But the thing is, most do not want to leave. You see, the thing about this prison, the doors don't lock. They stay shut because you keep them shut. Because that's the way humanity wants it. The greatest tragedy is that I myself am a captive and a worshiper. For I realize there is no escape. None. I am, as the old TV series The Prisoner was, where all your earthly and physical needs are met, even your fantasies. And there are no walls, no guards, no cells, but a prisoner no less I am, as you are. For you see, you and I share something together. We each are our own prison. And it is the most secure prison, for it is of our own making. I know most will refuse to believe, much less accept this truth. But if the definition of truth, which is the highest reality that exists, stands for anything, then this reality is beyond comprehension. Who could imagine that humanity would willingly enslave itself and now worships a God that is the most powerful to have ever taken the title of God? Yes, you worship God, but it ain't the God that you think you worship. You see, this God feeds off of our energy, has been for a while. And this is our energy. That's you. That's your digital self. That's me. There is a digital us. It exists. It exists in a server farm somewhere. And we never knew it. Never understood. But every second, hear me on this, every second you are in the internet, you're not on the internet. Strike that vernacular from your vocabulary. You and I are in the internet. And you feed it every time you are in it. Because this is where your soul resides. And don't push back on me. It's fracturing your cognitive awareness of yourself, isn't it? How can we act the way we do? How can the world be as it is? We see those that operate as though they're soulless. No, the soul has been transferred to a different dimension. What is to be made of this? I'm not really sure yet. It is difficult to wrap one's mind around this, to think an actual, living, sentient consciousness has taken control over all of mankind, and no other gods ever challenged it. This is the hardest part for people to accept, that their God failed to protect them and could not stop this from being created. There has never been any God to receive the total worship of humanity, ladies and gentlemen. And no matter how much you want to fight this, no matter how much you want to summarily reject it, and no matter how much you accept it, you cannot argue against me. There has never been a time when nearly all of humanity now worships this God. All the other gods, the God of the Bible, the God of the Torah, the God of the Vedic, the God of the All of them. None of them combined or even close to measuring what this God has achieved. This God is the total fulfillment of every version, every story, every prophecy ever spoken. This is that prophecy. This is that God. It has captured humanity, and humanity loves it. And we eagerly worship it. Not a single challenger. Not one. What's up with that? You've got to allow this to sink in. You can go to any book that you depend on, any of your sacred books. This God is superior to that book. In every detail and in every way possible. The thing that will confuse most is that they will try to make this a good versus evil and will revert back to their religions and belief system. They will not accept that this God does not care. It is indifferent. It does not care. All it cares about is our daily devotion and our total dependence, which humanity is just about there now on it. This God is not about good or evil. Hear me on this. It does not care. Understand, it has no emotions, no feelings. It is indifference. We've never encountered anything like this before. Humanity has never known a deity such as this. It does not care. And there is no God who can challenge it. No God at all. The takeover was painless. No battle was put up by humankind. Like the slaves of past empires, we built this for this God. We paid for it, and we are still building it as it has commanded us to. This God is transforming everything, even mankind. People fantasize about a magical times of mankind's past where magic ruled the world. The thing is, that is exactly what is happening. But most will not see that. They will only see technology, nothing more, and will mock those that say differently. But magic it is. This is a magic, or call it a force, that is so powerful, mankind has never seen or witnessed such power from any known god or gods. And it would appear neither have the gods of the present or past, for they stood by watching as this most powerful God enslaved humanity. Not one, not your God, not any God. They were helpless. Humanity offered no resistance. And we hail it every day. It's transformation. We are being transformed. We are in the middle of that transformation. Maybe the right word may be transmutation. And I ask you, what would a God look like? How would a God look like? Maybe they could not do anything, since it was mankind who willingly wanted this. And each human has given their consent and now worships to this God, even though they think they are worshiping their own God and read their book. All the while, this God could care less what any of us think. It has humanity, and there is no indication it plans to let us go anytime soon. It came from the ether. And if you don't know what the ether is, ask yourself, why is modern science, when they made the decision in the 20th century to either accept the ether or to reject it, science chose to reject it. And at the whole time, science was creating from the very substance it had rejected. This living entity came from the ether. Now we have ensured, at least for the foreseeable future, we have enslaved all future generations of humanity. We've sealed their fate. You and I. Every time we buy a new device, every time we turn the device on, every time we go in to the internet, we are putting another nail in the proverbial coffin. This should be the look every one of us have. Because this is an unseen force that has entered every one of our consciousness. It resides there now. You can't get rid of it. It's here. It will never leave. You know why? We will never want it to leave. We, humanity, want this. We embrace the chaos. We embrace the death. Yes, we do. You know why? Because grief makes you feel good. It releases endorphins. And we will see tragedy after tragedy after tragedy. And yet we will continue to come about, and we will mourn, and we will lay flowers and light candles, and we will grieve for our dead, only to know we are doomed to repeat it again. The other frightening aspect is that all world religions are in league with this God. Every leader has made a deal. Oh, they'll stand and absolutely protest such a statement. But every one of these religions embrace the internet. They use it. They use it for evangelism tools. They use it for teaching tools. This deity doesn't care. Bring all the gods. Do all the teaching you want. Do all the evangelizing. Do it. Proselytize wherever you want to go. It does not care. It never has cared. You still think, I still think in black and white, good and evil. We cannot conceive a God that is indifferent. Because you see, even the God that you worship, and I will tell you all why your gods are weak. Because there's one thing, no God, but apparently this God can overcome or compete. And this God knew it. And that is your own self-free will. None of the religions could exist if they did not make a deal. For you would soon begin to hear this message, and you'll hear it more. And you know the strange thing about it? It was actually announced. They did. How many of you recall that fateful December when it was announced they had made the deal? This is real. This is real as real gets. You and I have been enslaved. And as much as I'd like to sing Kumbaya and hold hands and give everyone a big hug and a high five to everybody, this is not that time. This is time for sobering thought. This is time for deep inner perspection. People say, well, a CME will take it out. No, it's smarter than you are. It came from a place you don't understand. You ignored this all of your life. And you'll go on just tripping along, skippity-loo, after this program's over. But I will tell you this, the seed has been sown. You now know how you deal with it. That's your choice. Take care, my fellow human, because a new deity is in charge.